Hello and welcome back to the Coding Hub. In today's video we will be looking at the developer console inside your browser. This is something you can use to debug and test your website and new product that you're working on directly from your browser, which is extremely useful. For those of you who don't know and haven't seen this before, it's this section here in your browser that I'm expanding and contracting now. And to open it, you have to go, if you go to your menu section, more tools, developer tools, and this will open your developer console. For the purposes of this tutorial, we will be using Google Chrome. However, the vast majority of these tips will work on other browsers. However, other browsers, it might look slightly different, it might be named slightly differently, and certain other browsers might have additional options, and some browsers might not have some of these options. However, we won't be going through all of these tabs. We'll be going through the tabs that I would say are inside every browser that covers 99% of the users, so stuff like Safari, Firefox, Chrome, and Opera, and Microsoft Edge, which is now based on Chrome, so that's very similar to this. So let's get started. Once you've opened up the developer console, you will see the Elements tab. Now the Elements tab is very interesting because this gives your page that you're on's HTML, and it loads everything inside here so that you can inspect it. What I mean by that is you can actually go into a specific element on the page by selecting this this button here, and then hovering over the element that you want to select. Now when you select it, this will take you to the exact HTML bit of code that does this, that displays this particular element, and also the associated CSS with it. And why this is interesting is because you can actually go in here and change some of these elements and see how this affects your page. So what this allows you is to easily debug the way that your page looks. For example, if you're not quite happy and you don't understand why it looks in a certain way. So, you know, here, for example, we can change this max width to, I don't know, 200%. and see how this affects the page. Of course, this is not what we're going for, but you know, you can make changes in here to then test the look of your website. Now this won't actually save this to your file, so this is just a test on this particular page. However, you can then just copy and paste this code into your files if you are happy with the end result. So yeah, this is great. It's really good for testing. You have a computed tab as well under the CSS section, which actually just gives you a lot of different CSS properties and what the actual values for that element that you're on assigned, and it's very useful for understanding you know, what's assigned to this particular element. You can even see, you know, how much padding, border and margins assigned to each part of the element. The bit that I'm most like using it for is the actual font family that is actually applied to the element. Sometimes if you have multiple fonts on your website, it's actually quite difficult to understand which font is being applied to which bit of text, and this makes it easy to see that. Now, the second tab that we'll look at is Console. This tab is extremely useful, so you can see any errors and warnings on your page that are to do with your JavaScript code. And this console window not only displays errors that you can investigate and see, you know, where that error is happening, but you can also use it as a bit of an immediate window, so you can type in some JavaScript and then see what it displays when you run it. So here we just did a quick console.log JavaScript command, which just displays test in your console log, which is this. However, you can do stuff more complicated things like get element by ID and then get the element by ID and actually inspect what's inside there by just expanding it and seeing what's there. The third tab along is called Sources. Now in this tab, what you can see is the files that are loaded as part of your page. So things like your CSS files and your JavaScript files, and this is extremely useful because you can actually see your JavaScript files, but not only see them, but also debug them. Now, I don't have any custom JavaScript files for my website, thecodinghub.com. However, there are JavaScript files that come with the WordPress themes that are used on this website, and all of these files are minified, which makes it extremely difficult to debug and read. However, there is a built-in function which is called prettyprint custom.unified.javascript, which basically prettifies the minified file. There we go. And this basically puts it in a syntax formatted version that is easier to read for a developer. Basically puts stuff like variable declarations and loops and stuff like that on new lines. And why is this cool? Because then you can put breakpoints. This isn't just for minified files, this is for all JavaScript files. You can put breakpoints, and with these breakpoints you can actually debug your page. So if we refresh here, you will see this has hit that breakpoint and it stopped the loading of the file. And what we can actually see is we have a scope here, which is the variables that we have in our current scope, and you can go ahead and debug these. You can see what's in them, and you can make decisions based on that. And you've got your normal step into and step over functionality. So I can click step over, step into, and then see what's happening there. And I can click continue. This has just hit this. I'm getting them in some sort of a loop. So I'm just going to get rid of that breakpoint and click continue, and then this will load my page. And as you can see, my image is back to normal because I refreshed the page. So the changes that I made earlier in the Elements tab are not consistent. They're only there for the time being whilst you're on the page. So yeah, this is the Sources tab, and of course you can also edit things like your CSS, so you can make changes directly in here, which will affect your page as well. The next tab that we will look at is Network. Now this tab is also extremely useful because this shows everything that you are loading on your page. So things like images, external files, but also requests to external systems. So this could be extremely useful if you have a front-end project that connects to an API, a back-end API somewhere else in another server, and it's loading a load of requests like get a particular blog or get all the blogs, and for example your blog page might be loading very slowly. Now if you want to see and confirm that is the case, you can, if we assume that this is this file load here is your, actually we'll do this one here. If we assume this is your API call, you can see what's the header, what's the response header, the request headers, and you can preview the response. In this case, it's actually given us the entire page. You can see the actual response, which is the entire HTML page, but in your case, it might be some sort of JSON file on your request. You can see timings, which tells you, which bit took the longest. For us, it was just simply waiting for the request to come back, and then maybe you have a large file and you can see what takes the longest to download. Maybe it's the content of the entire page or the response, and the cookies assigned to this request as well. So this is extremely useful to just, see all the requests that are coming in, to see if any requests are failing. You can see the status codes, and yeah, it's very useful for debugging any slow responses or responses that are just failing. The last tab that we will look at is application. Application is useful because you can actually see the storage that's assigned to this particular website or page that you're on, and in particular you can see stuff like session storage and cookies. So you can see the cookies assigned to your page, and you can actually just go in here and just change these values to whatever you want, or just simply delete them. So you can just right click and clear all of them, and then all of your cookies for this page are gone. And when you refresh, it will add some new cookies if that's how your website works. And yeah, you can simply test things on your page like that. If you have cookies that are assigned for a particular bit of functionality, you can just get rid of it and see what happens, especially if you're in the middle of a form fill out. The last thing that I want to show you is once you've opened this developer tab, a lot of people have sometimes when they're testing things caching issues with their website. Now if you have caching issues where you've made the change but it's not being applied and it's not doing what you think it should be doing, and if you inspect the element and the source files, you see it's actually displaying the old content that was previously in there. That means it's cached those files from a previous from your previous request. Now if you're having those issues, what you can do is actually right click and on your refresh button and actually empty cache and hard reload. This does a completely fresh take of the page, and it gets the latest changes to your files, and it should clear any cache associated with your website. This option, when you right click on the refresh button, only appears when you have the developer window open, so if you don't see it before, that's the reason why. Now I hope all these tips were useful and it will help you debug your website and the new product that you're working on. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and leave a comment below to let us know how you use these tips. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.